What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. I'm going to call this episode The State of Disc Golf 2017. Just going to check in with you guys. I'm going to tell you what I've been up to and talk about some of the recent developments in disc golf and some of the things that I've been thinking and just kind of my opinions on some stuff and my observations on where our game is right now at this point in time. It is February 2017. February is almost over, which is pretty wild. I haven't played much disc golf at all this month. I've had a lot of other stuff going on. I've gotten out and done some testing, and I've gotten some reviews out, and a few rounds in between, but nothing really to tell you guys about. Mostly just running out to Vance to test some discs or sneak out there if I got a window of sun or a nice day. It's been a really rough winter. Extremely rainy, extremely windy, and it's just been pretty ugly in terms of getting out and throwing plastic. I also had a trip to New York for like a week in there and a lot of planning before that and, all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, not a whole lot of personal golf stuff for me. I'm testing a whole bunch of plastic right now, as per the usual. I'm still trying to finish testing the Aviator. I still have not really gotten anybody out to really have a good catch with me with that thing and give me confidence to go into a review with. So I'm really slacking on that. It's upsetting me, but I'll get there eventually. And at this point, I'm kind of so far behind its release and everything that it almost doesn't matter anymore. I feel embarrassed that I still haven't gotten that review out, even though Bobby sent me quite a while ago. But it's just something I can't really help. I'm gonna get that done soon, though, for sure. I'm gonna make it a priority over the next couple of weeks to finish testing that. I have 4 really nice Prodigy discs in the testing queue right now. You guys might have saw. I did an unboxing for it. A viewer and subscriber, viewer, and the captain of the Prodigy Street Team, Michael Gibney, sent me some stuff to test and review. So shout out to Michael. Thanks for hooking it up. I appreciate getting some Prodigy stuff to test. I got some great stuff. Got an H1, a couple of A series discs, also a PA4 in 200 series glow plastic. So I'm excited to finish testing all of those. I haven't thrown anything except for the H1, and so far really liking that disc. Great flyer. Surprised me. It's actually pretty straight. I was expecting it to be a total meat hook, but it actually reminds me more of like my Culverin or like a Thunderbird so far. But I gotta finish testing on that particular one before I bring it out for review. I'm just about done testing and may actually post the Sheriff review relatively soon. I finally got my hands on one of those, and I snuck in a few solid testing sessions to get a feel for it, and it's a really nice flyer. Reminds me a lot of my Trespasses, just more stability, just a hair more stability, hair more speed, and just go a little bit farther, which is nice, not quite as forgiving. You got to throw them strong, where the Trespass, every once in a while you can weak arm one and it won't work out too bad. Yeah, Sheriff seems like it's something that you really want to commit to it when you're throwing it to get distance out of it. But if you get it to flip up and start riding to the right and hook up, it's going to go really straight and very, very far. So I really like that disc. Great flyer. Could end up in the bag. We'll have to see. I have to, kind of test it within my own game more than just test it as a disc for review. So we'll see how that goes. Also finished testing the Lithium Mid-Range by Element. That should be out relatively soon. And have a couple other things in the works. So yeah, as you guys know, I'm trying to keep busy, trying to keep posting stuff for you guys, and keep the reviews coming. I like to get to 150 before the summer, which I think is a relatively doable at this point. I'm not sure how far. Actually, maybe not. Maybe that's crazy. I gotta see how many I have. I think I'm up to like 125, 130. So yeah, 20 more discs before the summer. Could happen. Let's see how this spring goes. If I get a lot of good weather and I'm playing a lot of golf, it can happen pretty quick, So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go check in with the Disc Golf Depot soon, hoping to get an Archer for a review from them, the Discraft release. It seems like a nice disc for me. I'd like to give it a chance, and also always great to get a new Discraft review out there for you guys. I really like Discraft very much. Speaking of Discraft, they picked up Valerie Jenkins, after coming out saying that she was, very unhappy and unsatisfied with her contract and the way she was being treated as a long-term pro from Innova. and one of the best ever, just one of the best to ever play the game in her division. Val Jenkins, 4-time world champion, always in the mix at the biggest events, year after year. She's just a, powerhouse player in her division. So she wasn't happy with the way she was being treated by Innova. They have kind of a history of doing some weird stuff. Des Redding never got her signature disc, which she totally deserved, multiple-time world champion. Meanwhile, her husband, Jay Redding, got a signature disc for being a putting world champion. So he gets a signature disc for, mostly being known as one of the best putters in the world. And nothing against Jay. I'm not saying Jay doesn't deserve the Yeti Aviar. What I'm saying is that Des Redding clearly deserved a signature disc of her own for winning multiple world championships and being one of the legends in her division. Then you also got other weird stuff like, Val never getting her signature disc. Then also when they finally gave her one, they didn't give her the disc she wanted, and that sort of thing, which is kind of ridiculous. And one of the things I thought was really strange in that whole conversation that nobody really mentioned is that Simon Lizotte got a signature disc for breaking the world record. Now, I understand that from a marketing perspective to put a Simon Lizotte's name on a boss when he breaks the world record with it, but Simon Lizotte is literally not even on the team. Like, he's not even on Team Innova, and he had essentially a signature disc, or whatever it's considered when it's a world record disc. I believe it's considered a standard signature disc where you get a percentage of the sales. He had it literally by contract, not even allowed to throw that disc on the disc golf course. And he's got his name on it, and, so it's all seems to be much more about serving Innova and, their benefit, and not so much their players, especially their women, their female players like Val Jenkins and others. So, a lot of weird stuff to that. If you want to know more about Val's perspective on all this, you can hear a very thorough, interview that she did with Smashbox. Oh, there's a garage door opening underneath me if you're worried about that noise. She did a very thorough interview on Smashbox detailing all the different things from her perspective, as much as she felt like disclosing. So if you guys are interested in this topic, highly recommend you check that out. But she released, after a little while of speculation, hold on. After a little while of speculating, she made the announcement that probably didn't surprise a lot of people, and she's now on Team Discraft. Her partner in life and in disc golf, and just a friend, and her husband, Nate Doss, who she's been with for a very long time, has been a Discraft thrower his entire career. He's never veered from them. He probably has the most boring in the bag video in the history of the world. He has challengers, and he has got a buzz, 2 buzzes, and a wasp. He's got a bunch of Predators. He's got 1 ZXL for rollers, and he's got a bunch of Forces. That's all he throws. It's the most boring, just consistent bag system in the world. I think he actually put the Undertaker in there. That's a new release, so that's kind of a shocker. But he's been with Discraft forever, so I think it makes total sense for them to bring her in as well. And now husband and wife are both under the same banner. They're both multiple-time world champions, 2 of the most likable and beloved characters and people in our sport. So great pickup for Discraft. Congratulations to them. Congrats to Val. I hope she's happy and feels like she gets what she deserves. And going forward with Discraft, if they're not already developing a signature disc for Val, I think that's a mistake. Both from just where credit's due for Val, she definitely deserves one. But also just based on all the notoriety and all the conversations that have come out of her speaking out against Innova and leaving her long-term sponsorship with them, and citing inequality and just the problems that she had with it. I think it would be a big miss on Discraft's part to not put out some type of signature disc for Val very soon and try to give her what she deserves, and also kind of capitalize on the amount of people that are interested in, and to see if that's going to happen at this point. Discraft, they picked up Val. I think that could be good for them going forward, and they kind of need it. Their team situation is kind of hurting from my perspective. Their media is almost non-existent at this point. I just don't understand it. You don't see player in the bags. You don't see any kind of tip and trick videos. You don't see demos from any of their new products. You just get nothing from them. It's really strange. Aside from, I think, maybe a handful of YouTubers that are, probably just team members that decide to go out and post reviews on their own, you see almost nothing from Discraft. It blows my mind that more people, just to be perfectly honest, it blows my mind that more companies aren't just directly ripping off Bobby from DD. I mean, Bobby Cool Daddy Slick Breeze, Bobby Brown from Dynamic Disc is crushing the media right now. That's his role. That's his job. They brought him in just to do that, and he's doing a tremendous job. He's not doing anything that's like really hard to figure out. He's posting short clips of their pros, giving tips and discussing discs that they like. They have the Is This Disc Right For You segment where they demo and talk about new releases and have that information out there for people interested in their products. I mean, it's all basic stuff. It's not anything that should be that surprising or hard for you to figure out. And why more manufacturers aren't seeing how successful he's being in his role and aren't duplicating that by hiring their own people to try to take on that role for their own company, whether it's Discraft or Innova or whoever, just blows my mind. But Discraft could really use it. They just have no social media presence at all. Aside from pictures and articles and stuff on Facebook, they really don't have much. You don't see anything from their YouTube channel anymore. When I started coming up, their clinic videos were huge. I learned a ton of great tips from their clinic videos, and now those are the same ones that were there when I started playing 10 years ago. And it's just like, man, guys, you really just let this whole thing go. You live in an era where it's easier than ever to get the word out about your products and advertise completely for free. You send out Nate Doss or Michael Joe out into the field with a guy with a good camcorder, and you have them demo a new disc that's coming out, and you tell people when it's going to be released, what the basics on what to expect from it. You put that on YouTube. What does that cost you? And it just sits there collecting views. You can monetize that. I mean, just it goes on and on. I really don't understand it. I hope to see more manufacturers kind of figure that out and start bringing more media to the game here and help themselves grow and help the sport grow. Yeah, pretty crazy. Basically, my advice to them is to go see what Bobby's doing with DD and rip him off as much as possible. With the podcasts and all the different things that he puts out there, it gets the Dynamic Disc's name out there all over the place, over and over and over again, and people are responding, and their brand is growing. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but really disappointing the amount of stuff you see from somebody like Discraft, who's they make such great plastic. And like a lot of people just don't know about it because they're just not part of the modern era in terms of marketing and social media. It's just strange. End rant on that subject. Just talking disc golf with you guys like I like to do. Feeling good, rambling. So let's keep going. Sports Center. Paul Macbeth gets on Sports Center with a sweet ace from the Gentleman's Club Challenge. I'm not going to go into the results of the Gentleman's Club. I'm going to try to do a full wrap up once all of the videos from the coverage are released to give people time to see what happened. It's been a couple days since it ended, but the final round is still not out in its entirety, so I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. But if you didn't see Paul's ace, you're just not paying attention, because I shared it on Disc Golf Nerd page, on my own page, and a million other people did the same thing, and it made it on Sports Center number 9, which was kind of ridiculous. How throwing a dude throwing a frisbee 370 feet uphill directly into a basket is not more impressive than an alley-oop or like a no-look pass in basketball. I mean, really, that's what's going to beat it? But it all comes down to respect. Some of the reads on SportsCenter were great. A couple of them were totally disrespectful, kind of, for lack of a better word, douchey. They just kind of, like the one guy that on the ones that I recorded on my DVR, the dude said something stupid like, oh, I have the Frisbee Golf Direct TV package, Gentleman's Club Challenge, and here with the ace, and, that's about it. He didn't really say much to it, and just kind of, the little dig at it. You gotta call it frisbee golf. You gotta kind of talk down to it a little bit. It's just still kind of the way it goes for us. We'll get, but the respect has kind of changed over time, and it'll get better. But on some of the other reads, one of the woman that was on SportsCenter that I didn't see when I watched it, I just saw it on YouTube. She said something about it being a hyzer flip, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know if she plays or if somebody passed that terminology on to her or what. There's another one where they seem much more impressed by it, and the dude's like, "That was number 9? Like, that was amazing." So that was cool. So it's a little hit or miss there. Some of the guys on SportsCenter think they're really cute and they're funny, and that people watch it to listen to them talk, and really most people just want to see what happened in the game that night, and they don't care about dudes' jokes and stuff. But I'm sure some people like that sort of, shtick that they put out there. The interesting thing about the whole SportsCenter aces and big moments that make it onto SportsCenter and disc golf is how we all come together as a sport and just promote it for the good of the game. You'll see all manufacturers are stoked to see that ace on there. It's not like Discraft is like, "Oh, damn it, why's it got to be Paul?" Maybe there's a part of that where it's, why is it got to be, why couldn't this have been Nate or Michael Joe or one of their, Austin Turner or one of their players that gets on SportsCenter. But for the most part, it's just everybody's just stoked to see it on there. Everybody's sharing it, regardless of team allegiance, regardless of who you root for. Like, I'm a huge Ricky fan. You guys know that. I have like 13 compasses in my collection. He's on, far and away my favorite player ever. And, I'm usually not looking for Paul to do very well, to be perfectly honest. If Paul gets hot, that means bad things for Ricky generally, and it makes me upset when Ricky loses because I'm a fan. That's just the kind of stupid thing it is to be a sports fan, where you care about this stuff. It's just how it goes. I don't really want to see Paul do well, but when he hits that ace, I knew that video was going to come out, and I knew I was going to share it as many times as I could on the DG Nerd page, on my own page, and all that kind of stuff, knowing that, it's just like, hey, let's come together and get this thing on SportsCenter for just, this is our game, and regardless of what team it is, or what your fan allegiance is, or sponsorship, or any of that stuff whatsoever, we all kind of come together to try to push whoever that was and get them on, get that national exposure on ESPN. So it's just a cool thing to see everybody come together and, work together for that sort of thing. Speaking of working together, it seems to be the first two major events, the Aussie Open and now the Gentlemen's Club Challenge, the first big events of the year. We've seen basically a conglomeration of other teams, broadcasting teams, working together to bring the product to one specific channel. So with the Aussie Open, it was Jomez Productions was contracted to come in and do the Disc Golf World Tour. All the coverage is posted and, just only available on Spin TV's channel, even though it's Jomez actually doing the coverage. Then they, maybe some of the editors are from Spin TV. I'm not sure. I know Jamie Thomas, who, kind of runs Spin TV, as far as I can tell, as far as I know, he's doing some of the commentary and stuff. And it's a collaborative effort. It's interesting to see how that's going to go for the rest of the year. Same thing again for Gentlemen's Club, where there were a couple different production crews out there filming and spreading out, but then they're also bringing it all onto one hub. You know what I mean? Smashbox was broadcasting live on Spin TV's YouTube channel as well as their own. I was watching on the actual Smashbox channel because I'm a Smashy, and that's how I roll with that. There was like 10 times more people watching it on Spin TV, but the chat board was just a mess because of how many people were on there anyway. So I'd rather just watch it on the Smashbox channel. But either way, it was the exact same feed, showing the lead card and then some other stuff live. But then also Central Coast is out there doing the post round edited stuff. And they are also bringing it out only on Spin TV's channel. So it's just been kind of interesting to see how all that's going to work out. I would love to know more of the logistics as far as how all that works with the different branding and like what the contracts are and how much people are being paid and like what the stipulations are. All that stuff fascinates me. I don't know any of it. I don't think I'm gonna know any of it unless I try to like, you know, try to call up and interview somebody like a Jamie Thomas or Ian from Central Coast or something and try to get some of those details. There's no way I'm going to know that. There's a good chance that even if I got a chance to speak to them, which wouldn't be that out of the question, that they wouldn't be able to or wouldn't want to divulge a lot of that information anyway. So who knows? But it's just interesting to see how it's going. You know, I remember the Wild West, as we call it now, when you just show up with a camcorder and you just try to get in position to film the action, and that was all it was. You know, I've tried my hand at filming the Beaver State Fling a couple of years. You know, just showing up, just trying to get some shots here and there. I think at one point I had a couple of shots on my YouTube channel here many years ago. I don't know if that stuff is made private at this point or what, but you know, that was way before any of this kind of media plan and the probably before the money was involved. Really, it was just people were out there doing it because they wanted to do it. They were fans, you know, and they weren't really getting anything out of it. Now there's a lot of money to be made on this coverage and stuff in terms of being able to run ads and all that sort of stuff. So it's changing it considerably, and it's interesting to be a part of it in my own little way, and really just kind of on the outside looking in, but with that familiarity of the past and how things have developed, and kind of like seeing how that's all come together. It's been really interesting, and this is a great time to be a disc golf fan. You know, it's I really came into the sport at an interesting time when it was kind of on the verge of a change based on the internet, and social media has done a lot to change our game, as it's done for most sports. And it's really interesting and very exciting to be a part of it now. And I'm interested to see where things go for the rest of the season. I know that the Pro Tour is also going to be a collaborative effort. There's going to be a bunch of different crews coming together to bring you various different coverage, whether it's FPO, MPO, live coverage on Smashbox. It's just going to be a great season to watch golf and just be a fan of disc golf. So I'm really excited to see where all that goes. I will definitely be checking back in with you guys to talk about a lot of it as the season winds on. I love to do those little recap shows and just kind of give my perspective on stuff. I will be trying to do one of those for the Gentlemen's Club as soon as I can, like we talked about earlier. Let's talk about some other stuff. Here's the last thing I was going to bring up for you guys today, and I appreciate you coming with me. It's nice to get to sit down and talk to you guys about some stuff. It seems to me that the Trilogy brands, and if you're unfamiliar, it's a quick refresher. You got Latitude 64, who manufactures and molds all three companies' discs in Sweden. They manufacture their own line of Latitude 64 golf discs, also for dynamic discs and Westside discs. Therefore, allowing players on those different teams, sponsored by either Latitude, DD, or Westside, to throw any of the discs manufactured under the Latitude 64 umbrella. So, as far as I know, all the contracts still work that way. So, anybody on Team Dynamic Discs or Team Latitude 64 or Westside has available to them all the different discs that are from all three of those different brands. Then it kind of became dubbed the Trilogy more by fans, I believe, than by the companies themselves. They were never really looking to be a conglomerate per se, of these different companies. It was just kind of something that happened. And much like if you're an Innova player, you can throw Millennium, you can throw Discmania, all because they're all made by Innova and under that Innova umbrella. There's a similar thing that goes on with the Trilogy brand. So that's what people are referring to as the Trilogy, just in case for some reason you don't know that. It seems to me that those brands are trying to create more separation, and I believe that sometime in the next few years that might not be the case anymore. There might be certain players that can throw any of the different manufacturers, but I think as DD and Latitude and Westside continue to expand their lines, I think we'll see a point where they feel like they offer enough of a line of golf discs and enough different options and different discs that you need to fill different roles in your bag based on the way you play and the shots that you need to be able to throw out there, once it gets to a certain level, I think we're going to see a clear separation go down where Latitude 64 players only throw Latitude 64, Dynamic Discs only throw Dynamic Discs, and West Side only throws West Side. That's where I think it's headed. The reason why I think it's headed that way is because if you look at a lot of the discs they've been releasing lately, they're often relatively similar. Like you have you have the Convict and the Culverin. They're very similar discs. You have the Defender and the Gladiator are extremely similar. I mean, I was at the Disc Golf Depot the other day, and this is part of why I was formulating this theory, this opinion, based on the way things have been going. Me and Riker were looking at a Gladiator and a Defender side by side. I mean, if you can tell me what the difference is by looking at it, you got a sharper eye than I do, because me and Riker are standing right there holding two, a Lucid Defender, Opto, Gladiator. They look like the same disc to me. I can't tell any difference whatsoever. And I think that's been happening a little bit more and more under the radar, where they're kind of starting to put out, if one disc is very successful and the players are enjoying it, you might see that same disc come out from, say like DD puts out the Defender, then you see the Gladiator come in. Now Ricky and the other big players on Latitude 64, they don't have to throw the Defender. They can throw the Gladiator, get basically the same flight, but they're representing their own brand, which is Latitude 64. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, pun not intended, with the way the whole thing's working, and it's been pretty interesting, and we'll see what happens. But that's my prediction. I'm saying it now, that I think within the next 3 to 5 years we might see a day where if you're on Team DD, that's all you're able to throw. And there's enough of a lineup that you can get the job done. There's enough different types of discs to fill your bag and make it work. And the same with Latitude and West Side. I really do think that. Maybe it'll be like more of the high profile players. Like maybe they'll renegotiate with Ricky where he can only throw Latitude, but maybe they'll pay him more. And then, for somebody like Paige Pierce, she's already trying to do that on her own. And I think that's another thing that you're seeing too, is that some of these players are just making the decision to only throw their principal sponsor. Like I know Zach Melton, when he came to DD, he talked about that as well, that he's going to kind of make it a point to throw mostly dynamic disc stuff unless there's something that he really, really likes or really feels like he has a need for from one of the other brands, whether it's Latitude or West Side. And, I know Paige Pierce is doing the same thing. She's throwing almost exclusively a DD bag, except for her putters right at the moment. But I believe once the Deputy hits the streets and hits the market, she will be carrying and using those instead. And she will have a full DD bag. I know EMAC has a full DD bag right now. And, we'll see what happens. Some of the players are choosing to do that, but I also think that as these the individual lineups from the Trilogy brands fill out, like Latitude 64 right now has enough molds that if you can't put together a bag and go out and be competitive with the amount of molds that Latitude has right now, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I think there's more than enough options to fill out your bag just based on that. DD, same way. If I had to go make an all DD bag, and right now I could go to the Disc Golf Depot, take it off the shelf, and I'm 100% confident I can put together a bag that's just fine and covers me, and I could use, and be totally fine out of the options they have right now. But they still have a couple of things that they could use, like a more understable putter, which will be the Deputy. And I think that's kind of their overall focus, is to round out the lineup so that eventually their players will not have to veer outside of them whatsoever. And then we'll have to see. Maybe they'll take away that option eventually. Maybe they won't. Maybe it'll just be encouraged. It's hard to say. So that's the state of disc golf 2017 as I see it in February. Really great time, again, to be a fan of disc golf. Having you guys to, check out my stuff and support me as well and be part of my little mini disc golf community here on the Disc Golf Nerd channel means a lot to me. Thanks very much for all the continued support. of all you guys out there. If you have any suggestions for beginner videos or podcast topics or discs you like to see reviewed, as always a very welcome thing. Send me an email, discraftandinova@gmail.com is my old email address, and hit me up there. Send me a personal message on Facebook. Those are probably the two best ways to get in touch with me, for sure. Private messages on YouTube are not as likely to be seen by me. Sometimes they get hidden and I don't see them for quite a while. So yeah, definitely go with email or Facebook if you want to get in touch with me for whatever reason. I'm also thinking about maybe doing like an FAQ version of the podcast where I'll throw out the call to submit questions and I'll answer them as honestly as I can on the show. That would be cool. So stay tuned and see what happens with that. Thanks very much for listening. You're not watching, you're listening. I guess you could be watching, but you're just going to be staring at a static screen for quite a while. If you choose to do that, I'm not going to tell you not to. Thanks very much for the support, guys. I'll check you later. All right, cheers.